Welcome back to a very energetic show. Fallout from Sean Payton's USA Today article in which he trashed Denver's previous coaching regime, saying things such as, quote, "It might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL." Well, Saints writer Jeff Duncan said it's all part of the plan. Folks, Sean Payton is building up the confidence of his quarterback, letting him know that he's got his back. If there's collateral damage in the way of completing that mission, trust me, he doesn't care. This is all about his team and his QB, nothing more, nothing less. We thought this was very interesting. Turns out Sean Payton does care a little bit because he went and kind of apologized. Take a listen.
He went on to blame it on he had a couple lattes. He's like, a couple lattes.
That's true, though. You get a little caffeinated.
He has a great, and credit to Jarrett Bell who got the story. He's like, I got a great relationship with Jarrett. I had a couple lattes, just let it fly. But
all right, Coach, so what do you make of this whole, the idea that's motivating, the idea he's kind of apologizing, the lattes?
Yeah, the shirt, uncommon. The uncommon is the comments he made. Like when they came out, I said, you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of success, you get a little bit older, you say whatever you want to say, but then you still got to get in front of the team, and you're telling the team, don't create distractions. Don't create distractions. Don't create distractions. And then this creates the biggest distraction of training camp. And now it also, it bleeds over into expectations, because you're saying that team last year was poorly coached with 5 wins, with 9 games, with one score losses, 4 games in overtime. Okay, so that means you're going to get to 10 wins, and Russ is going to be significantly better. You are creating pretty high expectations by what you're saying about the team and the coaching staff that was there last year. And then you've got an opponent, and you're killing a quarterback that's, a pretty good quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. When you say, the Jets won the offseason, they're just like Washington when they signed up a bunch of washed-up guys that couldn't play. And so now you're saying that Aaron Rodgers is washed up and couldn't play, and you play him in, what is it, week 5?
Week 5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Saleh thought it was week 4. That's the Chiefs game.
It's not. It's not really the way you want to ease into the season.
But so there's so many parts of this that I find fascinating. I find fascinating the response of my colleagues to it, which is, listen, I'm in New York. Sean was in L.A., but Sean has a lot of friends at Fox, at NFL Network. It seems like a lot of the people who've covered him really like him. And everyone was like, crazier than a fox. Like, there is a hidden message to this. In a way, I typically am a lone voice in the wilderness, applauding honesty, even when it rubs people the wrong way. The universal praise that Payton got yesterday for lighting another coach on fire, and by the way, the GM of his current team, who is still the GM there, caught some shrapnel too. Hey. The whole thing was odd. The whole thing was that it was like, oh yeah, this is what he's doing. But the people who do know him, and he does seem to be an incredibly likable guy. Some of my favorite people, Cowherd, Schrager, love him. So I respect that and I believe it. They all agree this is about building up Russell Wilson. This is about building up Russell Wilson's confidence. The question I would ask is this. Has Russell Wilson ever lacked in confidence?
Yes.
No.
Yes, all of that is lacking in confidence.
No, it is the opposite. Wild?
Oh, I disagree.
Really? You thought he was limited in confidence? Because he told you he was quite unlimited.
No, but it's a little protest too much.
Okay, all right, Freud. But that if we want to get deep into his psyche. Yeah. But Russell Wilson is the issue with the Broncos is not that Nat Hackett and the game management was an abomination. I said after the first week he would be on his last strike.
Yes.
That is one thing. How their quarterback played is, I don't want to say independent of that, but a separate issue. And for Russell Wilson, what did we know about Russ from, do you remember when Brandon Marshall, a friend of ours, was still hosting this show, and Brandon talked to Russ and Dan Patrick talked to Russ. And remember, and it was like he sat in the box with Roger Goodell and wanted to be playing in these games. Mm-hmm. He wants to play a style of quarterback that can win MVPs. This was an issue with him and Carroll, right? He's never been good at that style at quarterback. So he wants to play a style of quarterback that does not suit him. He wants to be the main attraction of a team. Clearly, it's why he wanted to leave Seattle. I don't think he's that level of player anymore. And I think Sean Payton now, causing his own little mini brush fire in service of Russ's ego, is a sign that this is not going to go well for Denver.
First of all, I don't think it had anything to do with building up Russ.
Nothing.
No, you said he had a few lattes. I think that's what it was. I think it was a very honest moment about how he felt about the previous coaching staff. Like, I think there was honesty in how he felt, but he had to walk it back because of all the reaction that everybody got. And look, there was let Russ cook.
Yes.
He got to cook last year, and he burned down the kitchen.
Yes.
And most veteran quarterbacks, even with a rookie head coach, can save the rookie head coach from himself a majority of the time. And Aaron Rodgers is a great example of that. Remember when they went out to California and they had some issues, and then he kind of stepped it? Like, those veteran quarterbacks are going to make sure the pre-snap penalties are limited. The play clock is under control. The guy's played for what? How many years has Russell Wilson played?
This
13, 14,
12,
or 12 years? Like, those things can be controlled by a quarterback and should, especially if he's cooking.
But, Coach, don't you think that if you've got a quarterback, let's say I'm Sean Payton, and I've kind of figured out Russell Wilson. I was hanging out at some basketball games with him. And this is my theory. And he sees a guy on the precipice. Like, oh, he might think he's not the guy, and I need to prove that he is. And I can't say, hey, you stunk last.
By taking a blowtorch to
yes, it's not your fault. It's like a big Goodwill Hunting moment. It's not your fault, Russell Wilson. Hey, all of you guys who were embarrassing last year, it's not your fault. I'm here now. You guys are good players. You're not a bunch of losers who are at the bottom of the AFC West who have never beaten the Chiefs. You guys are good. Your coaches have been bad. I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah, but
that's right. I am
his
good.
other comment
I was all SEC.
His other comment was everybody had dirt on their hands. Everybody was responsible for that. It wasn't just Russ. He said that very clearly. But if you're in the business of having to build him up as a 12-year vet with all the success that he has, that's not what those comments were. Those were honest comments about how he felt that now he, has to temper down.
If I may just very quickly, I also think Russ was so bad last year that maybe people it's being phrased as if he has had this multi-year slump reason to have no confidence. 12 months ago, the Broncos traded a historic package for him, basically threw a parade, and then gave him one of the best contracts in the history of the league. 1 season ago. And it was supposed to be, and people were smart people who were saying Broncos might win the AFC West. The Broncos were Super Bowl contenders. The idea that Russell Wilson now all of a sudden is just a puddle of lack of confidence, I do think his feelings were hurt at the fact that a lot of people seem to be reveling in his failures, especially former teammates and stuff. But I don't know. I think Sean, I think this was a misstep by Sean, and I think it has raised the expectations for a team that needed to fly under the radar because they're not going to be that good.
Well, maybe they are.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
All right.
If we had a bad
Which
segment.
part, the comments or him walking back
I
the
like
comments?
Sean Payton saying, you know what, it wasn't your fault. I mean, it was a little bit your fault, but it's mostly the coaching. If we had a bad A block, it's like, guys, it wasn't our fault.
And then so
monitors were down. I was like, that's right. It's
So
not
then
that I
he
didn't prep
hated the comments where he said, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
He got it. It was like a wink. Like, I shouldn't have said
was
that.
it?
The coaches were terrible, though. Meanwhile, across the country, the Jets are licking their wounds after Payton predicted that their preseason hype wouldn't lead to real season success. Billy Turner responding to a post writing, seems like someone started training camp and is trying to soften the blow after realizing that he's in what he's in for this season. Then he didn't say anything. Very nice. Here's what Randall Cobb said.
Yeah.
Nick?
Yeah.
Jets at Broncos, you still think it's a thing by then, week 5?
No. Do I still think it's a thing?
Yeah, this is a thing.
I think this is one of the reasons this was a misstep. Can we put up the Jets schedule real quick? So the Jets were, no matter what, they know that up until the bye, they have the toughest open of any team in the league. Coach, I know you don't love us doing the schedule stuff.
They're going to get rolled.
This is my favorite part.
I love it.
But the Jets, even before all these comments, knew we've got to win that Broncos game. that we win the Broncos game, win at least one of the other games, it's not a disaster opening 6 weeks. You can recover from 2-4. But my point is this. So they already had to have it. Now they have, as coach talks about, the extra added, right trap game's the wrong thing, but you have the Chiefs and the Eagles bookending it. If there was ever going to be a kind of, take a deep breath week, it could have maybe been the Broncos week, but not now. Not now that the coach said, and one thing I'll give Nat Hackett credit, he seems to be likable. I don't think he's good at managing the clock, but people seem to really like him and have some loyalty to him. I'm not being a smart aleck there. Sure. That's a real quality. Like Billy Turner's been with him throughout his career. Rodgers loves him. And so I think that's another reason this is probably a mistake to have done it.
It's a mistake to do it no matter what. You don't need to farm anybody else's land. He doesn't need to talk about the Jets. I agree, you don't want to win the offseason. I understand that. And everybody understands that in the coaching world, but you don't need to cite a certain team and then go back to a historical team that did it in such a dramatic fashion.
Is it the truth?
What's that?
Is it the truth that the Jets are trying to win the offseason?
I don't know. If you think that Aaron Rodgers is a washed-up, has-been, just-named player that they're overpaying, then if you think that, then that's the truth. They're trying to win the offseason. They went and got a guy who's a year removed from back-to-back MVPs. Is that trying to win the offseason? They corrected the position that you needed to correct the most. They had Zach Wilson, and look, that hasn't worked out.
On the Jets this year.
No, I'm not in on the Jets. I'm just saying the idea of winning the offseason is go and getting a Hall of Fame quarterback at the position that you desperately need when you've got a really good young team with the Rookie of the Year on offense, the Rookie of the Year on defense, and a defense that's giving up the fourth most or least points. Like, that's winning the offseason? Sign me up.
Sounds like the Broncos to me.
It sounds like the Broncos a year ago, which is why this is the reason this is, to me, such an awesome feud is right now, what team do you think, I know you love when I do trivia, has the longest consecutive losing season streak in the league? Active.
Is it the Jets?
It's the Jets. Who do you think has the second longest? Active. The Broncos.
Oh, is it really?
It's 7 years for the Jets. The Broncos went 46 years without back-to-back losing seasons. They've now had 6 in a row. So these two teams that have had the least success of any two teams in the league over the last half decade are now at each other's throats. I love it.
I'm telling you.
I think it's great.
Midnight's going to come early. That Monday night game against the Bills. Then you've got Cowboys,
Jets are starting
Patriots, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles. Not 0-6,
well, then that'll
but
be must-see TV.
Yeah. Woof. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.